Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with author, podcaster, and recovery coach, Raven Scott. She is a narcissist abuse survivor from childhood, being raised in a religion that stripped her of her autonomy. Then emotional and sexual abuse by her first romantic relationship. She was stuck in another form of torment for 10 years, attempting to leave 7 times after leaving her family at 18, then her family's religion at 31. She has a personal experience of being her family's black sheep after being the golden child. The abandonment of love was heartbreaking, but she has embraced her solo path and dominates breaking toxic ancestral patterns, now being a mother of 2 girls. She is the ambassador of Gain Your Sparkle Back after narcissistic abuse, and her mission statement is shedding negative patterns one step at a time to find your power and potential strength through healing so you can kick ass in this life. Enjoy her interview.
Thanks for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Sure, yeah.
So you're busy. You're an author, a podcaster, you're a recovery coach, and I'm curious, with as much interaction as you have with the public, how did you do during COVID? How was this time for you, and how did it change you?
Oh, gosh, during COVID, everything was already very much through the internet and Zoom. So I actually got more busy during COVID, because more people were booking, and I was on more Zoom calls and doing more lives and doing more interviews. So, yeah, it was almost like a influx versus a negative space for me.
So I'm curious, I see what you do in black and white and your history, but let's just put you in front of a bunch of grade school kids right now. You're at career day. One of the kids looks up at you and says, "What do you do for a living, and how are you qualified to do it?" How would you answer that child?
Oh, yeah. I would share with them that I am an emotional coach. I help adults and people sift through really difficult emotions and difficult times that they've experienced in their life. And I'm qualified because I personally have gone through it myself, so I can empathize and I can relate. I know how it feels to be in their shoes. And I've done loads of healing work and emotional exercises to be able to come to a point where I can then coach them through their emotional maturity and how to grow up and say no and draw boundaries and do all those things to thrive and be happy.
So as somebody that provides that level of support to people, you obviously have your own needs that you have to meet. How do you parlay through that? How do you give what's needed as somebody that provides the service to other people, but you also hold back enough to keep yourself satisfied and healthy?
Yeah, I love that question. It is important to be practicing what we preach and for me and my energy to be supported so I'm not drained. There's one is I just put up a permanent impasse shield, like an aura shield, so I can still let my light out, but I'm not absorbing all of the trauma and the pain. And the second thing I do every morning is after I drop my kids off to school, I walk down to our local lake and I just ground myself near the water. I take my shoes off. I walk barefoot in the grass, and I just spend time with myself, my intuition, and my guides, and I just build that boost and the support up, and I'm perpetually connecting with my higher self to make sure that I don't let my insecurities and my fears and their trauma and my ego take over, that I'm always coming to each session with just an open heart and a full and ready heart to help.
So you're obviously a highly driven person, and you've gone through your trauma, and that's a part of what you help people through. But I'm curious, talk to me a little bit about growing up, and what were some inspirations for you, and what gave you the strength that you hold on to today?
Oh, I've always been a very spiritual person. I was raised in a religion that I don't partake in anymore. I'm totally opposite. I'm probably going to hell according to them. But in that circle, whatever that was, the dogma that I was taught and I was conditioned to believe, I still held on to spirituality part of it really strong. So I was always a chaplain at my school or a worship leader for the school. I also was a big volunteer in the church youth group I was in. So that has always inspired me as to, like, I don't know if you want to say like lean on, but to always seek a higher being that supports us or is here to guide us. So that's always been that inspiration of the true message, of Jesus is loving those who really need us, is what I've always been inspired by.
So let's take that one step further. You play a part in people's life of being a mentor. Who would you consider maybe a mentor or a hero or a role model for yourself?
Oh, Danielle Laporte is one of my favorite spiritual mentors that I'm always soaking up her books and her podcasts and just her wisdom. She even has a beautiful membership that I was a part of for a while. And she just comes from this place whom I also really look up to, like the Dalai Lama, Thich Nhat Hanh, all of those who just come from this place of pure heart-driven love, and trying to not see everyone as a villain. And I think that's what I'm trying to do with my podcast. So many people talking about narcissistic abuse is like, they're a bad person, they're evil, they're doing this on purpose. And I think a lot of them are just blind. They're like emotional zombies, which can also be scary in and of itself. Like, oh my gosh, these people are really harming and they don't even know they're harming. And so it's like coming from this place of elevating the conversation and elevating the collective into healing, even the narcissist. How can we heal the narcissist without them pulling us down? Is just being love for ourselves, like connecting to our higher soul self and doing what is healthy for us will then motivate and be infectious to everyone else around us, even those who may be toxic and go, oh, wow, they really aren't putting up with this. Why? Or why have they cut me out of their life? Let me self-evaluate. Some do, some don't. But, the ultimate higher goal for me is just to spread love and light.
So as an author, we all have that moment with literature growing up. There's that book, there's that moment that kind of the curtains part. What was that book for you? What was it that made you either want to read more or become a writer one day?
You know what? Honestly, the book You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero, I read that like 4 times. I was just so enthralled with how she could be so straightforward, so like she could cuss in her book. I was like, wow, you can cuss in your book? And then she could also be very like spiritual without being woo-woo. I just really resonated with that on the beginning of my journey, realizing like I can transform and create my own reality into whatever I want because it comes out of my thoughts and my rewiring of who I am. So that was the big motivator, and to see, really to be inspired that, yeah, I can write my own story too. Like we all have a beautiful story. Sometimes it's simple, sometimes it's traumatic, and we all have the ability to share it.
One of the things that I think is common with a lot of people is, being kind of a recovering spiritualist, and you've obviously gone through your rigors with religion and found your way to spirituality. What do you tell people that feel like they're probably in the wrong religion or something doesn't seem right? What advice do you give them? How do you help them find themselves in the spirituality that will fit best for who they are?
I always go back to sharing with how do you feel inside your body? Like, what is your gut saying? Is your gut really at peace with waking up and going into church, or are you like nervous and have knots in your stomach because you have to go confess all your sins and you have to be told like that you're broken and you're imperfect and you have to like drink this and break this bread and say this thing just so that you feel like you're safe and your soul is safe? Or is it just like you feel really amazingly peaceful by going out in nature? Like even when I was in the church, I remember saying like, I connect with God in nature. Like this is my truest church, is out here in the forest. And that still is true today. I connect with the divine gods, goddess, all my spirit guides, and my intuition in nature. So how does it feel to you? Like, where are you feeling the most at peace and the most connected to higher vibration thoughts and energies? And if it's not this particular religion because you feel like you have to check off all these boxes and there's so much control, then where is it? Maybe it's out hiking. Maybe it's on the water. And do more of that and listen to your intuition and your gut and not what society or your family is guilting you into doing because they're afraid. Now, I think a lot of these religious dogmas are fear-based. Like, if you don't do this, I don't know what's going to happen, but this person said that I'm going to go to hell. So I'm just going to put all my insurance and my bets into the idea just in case, so I don't go to hell or that my children don't go to hell. And it's very fear-driven. So, yeah, removing yourself from the fear and dropping yourself into your body and your intuition.
I would imagine with what you're doing with helping people shed negative habits and find spirituality and positive aspects of your life that there would have been a particular uptick in this because of COVID. Has that been the case?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's given people a lot more quiet time to evaluate what do they value, what do they believe, and some of them felt really relieved they didn't have to wake up and go to church because of COVID. They're like, oh, maybe I should just make this a permanent habit. Some.
So I'm curious, with that being said, is this kind of a momentous time for human beings to find a better purpose, and hopefully by proxy we all just kind of rise up and have like a better era that we all enter into?
Yeah, I don't know if you've heard of the Age of Aquarius. In human design, they're calling it in 2024. The next incarnation cross is going into the sleeping phoenix. So this is a time where it's all about individuals, right? All of us living uniquely, how we feel is right, beating to the drum of dancing to the beat of our own drum. Sorry, had to get that out there. Being uniquely us, and all of the big systems that are so controlling, those are all crumbling, and we're all being called to elevate our energy, elevate and connect with our soul versus following certain dogmas to shine your light so brightly. I always say on my podcast, keep your unique light shining, because the shining of each unique light then joins together to lift us up in society, all as individuals, pitching in. Just like putting together a broken, crumbling house, one hand by one hand, all the villagers come and help. And that's kind of a metaphor for what's going to be truly happening as we enter the Age of Aquarius, in the next year or two, and the incarnation cross of the sleeping phoenix.
So I'm curious if, you could meet anybody alive on the planet right now. Who would it be? Who you admire that you would love to spend some time with?
Oh, goodness. To be honest, Ryan Holiday. He's the Daily Stoic. He's always talking about stoicism, and I just truly admire his groundedness. I admire his viewpoints on the world, and he's studied ancient, stoicism, philosophies from ancient Rome and all those times. And, I always love listening to him because he says, well, history repeats itself. So everything we're experiencing now, it's not new. It's happened before in all these different eras of time. And, yeah, he has a very calming kind of viewpoint about life. So, yeah, just taking a morning walk with him would be really fun.
Cool. What's been one of the best responses you've gotten from either your writing or your work with your clients, the best fan response, so to speak?
Oh, my gosh. There is this beautiful reader who has, she was actually a friend of a friend, and we've become close because she keeps sharing her story of what's happening after she's read my book. First, she was expressing how grateful that I wrote my book, and this is life-changing and helped me so much in reparenting myself and knowing I can stand up for myself. And it actually opened her eyes to the fact that one of her family members was very narcissistic, and she kind of she was asleep to it, and then she read my book and it all just clicked. And then just recently she said I could share this, that she moved back in with them, and there was an episode of a very horrible, violent scenario where this narcissist was throwing sharp objects at her mom and her, and she had to file a police report. She had to, leave the next day, filing a restraining order, try to get her mom out, and her mom decided to stay, as usually that happens with the older generations. And she said, she's going through all this trauma, and it's just so horrible. And I said, you keep just being powerful, stand within yourself, who you are. You made the right choice, and you can only choose now to do what you can control. You can't pull your mom out if she doesn't want to come out. And just recently she shared that after speaking with mediation, and they were able to convey to her, this family member and her mom said that they are getting 3 therapists. They are, because they filed something against her because she filed a police report, like a lawsuit. They're dropping the charges, filing, they're going to therapy, 3 different therapists. And she was like, and it was all because I read your book. It was all just like, that was a catalyst for her to stand up, rise in her power, and be able to reparent herself so that she wouldn't allow this abuse to continue.
So now that kind of things are waking up and, things are much different now than even a year ago with the pandemic easing, have you kind of accelerated some plans? Do you have new things that you're going to do, more things now as we kind of enter a new era?
Yes, I would love to read more people's human design charts to give them their unique blueprint so they can truly know consciously what their energy and vibration is here to do to elevate the collective. And I am trying my very best. I probably need to hire somebody to help me create an app. So a supportive app that people can go to every day to just get those empowering messages, to get the information they need and it just be at their fingertips to be able to gain the power and the knowledge, because knowledge is key against the narcissist. They twist every single thought and they blame you, they gaslight you, and it just makes you feel like you're going crazy and you have no train of thought. So to provide that knowledge and empowerment through the app is something that I'm gearing up to do, and I'm really excited to launch in the beginning of the year.
So tell me a little bit, in your life as an author, podcaster, and coach, where's the best place for anybody out there listening right now to either get your services, pick up your book, listen to your podcast? Where's the best place?
The best place is my website, ravenscott.show. You can click through to the shop page. You can get your free human design chart. I will print it out, and I will send you your information of your type and your authority and your profile. And then if you'd like a further in-depth reading, you can book one with me. And yeah, all the coaching is there. The podcast is there. My book is there. The book is on Audible, which is doing really well. So I'm sure all the podcast listeners love to listen to books. So my book also is available on Audible.
Wonderful, Raven. This has been great. Thank you for opening up. Good luck with everything. And I love the encouraging words for 2024. The fact that we're looking at things is kind of a new dawn and things are opening up. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Yes. Stay the course. There'll be some ickiness happening with more control of trying to dominate. But if we continue to participate and rise up and shine our light and say no, then we will make it through and bigger, better, and stronger.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, and music around the globe. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.